right now with there's Craig recording. Great. Yeah. As you know, I'm Parker. Um, we've got Leo here at It's Your Boy. We've got Marcus, Steve, who both work on the Telcoin Network Protocol. If you guys want to introduce yourselves, and Grant as well.
Who wants to go first?
Yeah, Grant, if you want to start with just a quick intro of yourself, that'd be great.
Hey everybody, I'm Grant. I'm working on the protocol side, Telcoin Network, and I'm on the Treasury Council for Validators. And yeah, I'm mostly active in Telcoin Network chat and kind of like bouncing around and looking forward to meeting everybody else tonight.
Yeah, Leo, you want to do a
Awesome.
little intro?
Oh, what was that?
I said, Leo, you want to jump in and do a little intro of yourself? And we can just kind of go around and I'll do that. I feel like that's a good way to start it off. It's a small meeting. As well, I'll do intros.
Hi, I'm Leo, also from the UK, and I've been helping mostly Parker out getting all this up and running. And I'm on the Town Council, so yeah, look forward to making an impact there.
Awesome. Anyone else? Marcus, you want to jump in?
Yeah, hi, my name's Marcus. I work smart contract development for the Telcoin Association, and I'm on the Telcoin Treasury Developers Council.
Awesome. Yeah. Steve, interested in doing a little intro yourself?
Sure, I'm Steve. I'm also a protocol developer. I grant Marcus on the Telcoin Network and on the platform council.
Sounds like it's bleeping out.
Yeah, it's a little bleepy for me too, but Steve's on
we can-
platform protocol stuff with us too. So
Yeah, Steve's Telcoin Network developer. Squirtel. So what council you run, Squirtel?
So, hey guys, so yeah, my name's Adam, known as Squirtle. I'm on the Platform Council. And yeah, I've pretty much been here since the beginning of the journey as a community. So yeah, exciting to see how everything pans out being on this side to shape the future.
You've kept the same Squirtel moniker the whole time because it's frankly good. You know, it's prime real estate for the Tel fan, in my opinion. All right, we've got Andrew Pinch here. We got Coops, Dave Massey. If any of you guys want to do intros, feel free to jump in and say hello. I'll give it a few seconds here, and otherwise we can kind of get into it. All right. So yeah, generally today, so overall within the Telcoin Association, there are these obviously these various different organizations that make decisions related to the platform and its governance system. At the highest level, there's this legal entity, the Telcoin Association, that we collectively ratified its constitution and adopted during the TGIP1 proposal. And that effectively deconcentrated both legally and practically the governance of the Telcoin blockchain platform and its native token to the community, and positioned Telcoin Holdings PTE as one of any infinite number of application developers participating in one of four different miner groups who produce and govern the platform collectively. So I wanted to basically go through the set of questions, and really just do a kickoff call for everyone to answer questions about, the inner workings of how the councils are set up, the, communication and information rules that structure the recurring council meetings and other, duties from councils related to, when they need to provide certain sets of information about what. And so let me go through the set of questions, Squirtel, that you had set over as a starting point at a high level, and throughout, just answer questions. The goal of this is to, the first value of the Telcoin Association Constitution that's codified is making clear the boundaries of, who governs what, who produces what thing over what, area of the platform. And, so in these, community-led governance systems, especially, when there's people all around the world in this decentralized governance structure, it's really important that everyone knows precisely what their role is, what authority they have, how the proposal processes work, and the domains that they oversee. And so the goal of this really is just to drive understanding and awareness. For the most part, these questions are all thoroughly responded to within the documentation format on telcoin.org and also within the TGIP1 proposal. And so we're really just sort of changing the format into one that is useful and helpful in terms of guiding people towards the common goal here, which is to facilitate a sustainable governance model that properly governs the Telcoin platform and TelSupply, with the aim of coordinating a global blockchain standard around mobile networks, connecting every mobile phone user in the world to the same blockchain network, and ultimately scaling financial services to every mobile phone user in the world through this disruptive, revolutionary blockchain technology, but connected to the existing financial system. And so, I'm Parker. I'm on the Platform Council. Within these, and so I'll just kind of go through the different questions and provide answers, and then if feel free to raise your hand, jump in, and ask any questions that you might have as we're going through it. Once again, the goal is just to help everybody understand how these various different decision-making orgs and decision-making processes work, as well as the duties of all the council members. At the end, there are a couple of miscellaneous questions that I'll also get to. And additionally, Leo created a council instruction manual on telcoin.org forum in the council resources section for each of the councils. It is in a lot of ways, a sort of copy paste into a different format of the existing docs, but we wanted to make sure that each council had its own sort of set of guidelines and instructions to improve their decision making and really guide everyone towards what they're supposed to be doing. So with that in mind, Leo, if you want to share that in the chat here with the council instructions, that'd be useful. And then I'll jump into this question now, the first one. So there's a first set of questions that are just organized. There are minor councils, org structure, governance questions, and then there are also communication rules and questions to go through, and then some miscellaneous legal and otherwise questions that are that popped up from everyone. So first question that I wanted to go through posed by Squirtel is council role guidance and expectations. And the question reads as, to date, clarity regarding the operational structure and expectations of the council role has been limited. Establishing well-defined guidelines on roles and responsibility will be essential in ensuring council members are well informed and positioned for success. Providing a clear framework will help facilitate cohesive decision-making and foster engagement among council members. So kind of zoom out here, talk about the operational structure and expectations. So TGIP1, the Constitution, for further reference, and telcoin.org docs thoroughly specify everything that I'm going to walk through, including the structure of the governance org, as well as the expectations of each of the councils. And as far as the organizational structure is concerned of the Telcoin platform governance system, it's unique in that it has numerous overlapping governance orgs. So the different minor councils are governing this complex system with 3 different layers, and rather than have one council focus on everything, it's been divided up into different councils with different domains. And so the Telcoin Association is this, let's call it polycentric versus a monocentric. There's multiple organizations versus just one. Democratic system, so it's a decision-making process, set of decision-making processes that are decided fairly by the community as a result of free and fair elections. And this ultimately has 2 legal entities that are important. The Telcoin Association is a Swiss Verein. This is an association in Switzerland. It's based in Lugano, and it's really the legal operating framework for community governance, which includes all of the members in this channel and this discussion, everyone who's a miner, so a liquidity miner, staker, developer, or validator, and all of the minor councils themselves, governed by a set of the constitution it has, as well as a set of association rules that you can find within the docs, as well as a set of guideposts that we have prescribed as values in the association constitution. So the Telcoin Association, Telcoin Holdings is a member of that. It's one, for both legal, practical purpose. The Telcoin Association and its governance works are distinct from Telcoin Holdings, and vice versa. Telcoin Holdings is, the company that develops Telcoin Wallet and Telcoin Bank, and that is one member of the association. The result of TGIP1 was decentralizing it from being just one org to the community, defining specifically what that means in terms of community members, and then participating within that with less power and control, and enabling the community to self-organize and self-govern the platform. So Telcoin Holdings is just one member of the association participating as one of the 4 types of miners, which is an application developer. And the other legal entity, so there's the Telcoin Association, and then there's the TAO, which is Telcoin Autonomous Ops. And this is a sort of operational arm that's meant to help implement council decisions. And basically, there's a set of duties that the TAO has as its existing tasks, which include primarily right now, it's just developing Telcoin Network mainnet. It includes maintaining existing infrastructure, so let's say Telex staking contracts that are in existence, ecosystem development with the GSMA. As you notice, Rajesh is over in Singapore at a major event right now, and Telcoin is actively involved in these discussions with GSMA members, and then provide some technical, administrative, and legal support. When a new proposal comes along, and that adds a new task to that set to the TAO's existing list of tasks that it has, then that needs to be formally discussed and defined and financed in agreement with TAO members before any individuals are mentioned. And so just to reiterate, there's the Telcoin Association, which is our overarching legal entity. There's the TAO, which is this wholly owned subsidiary that's responsible for implementing the decisions made by councils, either on its own or via contracting with some provider externally, and making these payments in the real world, et cetera. So you have the decision-making org, the association, and the org that actually implements those decisions, the TAO. And once again, Telcoin Holdings is just one member of the association. Now, we're all familiar with, as a result of the elections, the various different miner groups and how they vote. And so for the purpose of this, I wanted to kind of go through each of the different types of councils, what they oversee at a high level and their roles, and then break down what the duties are of each of the councils, or the councils generally, and the decision-making process they use. So at the global level, when you're looking at the Telcoin platform, this 3-layered system with this extractable supply of Tel, and you could consider, let's say, this Discord channel and the telcoin.org docs and that website and the forum. These are all components of the platform. And so the Platform Council and Treasury Council are what's considered a global council, in the sense that if they are effectively analyzing and governing the system as one indivisible system, including all 3 layers. So there's 8 members of the Platform Council, 4 members of the Treasury Council. The Platform Council generally oversees platform-wide systems and social policies. And uses both the TIP and TEL-IP processes. The Treasury Council, which has unanimous approval required when there are proposals that are related to the TEL Treasury, the TEL token contract, TEL issuance, governance infrastructure, and Telcoin Network after it is live with 10 validators. The Treasury Council with the Platform Council governs those systems. So it's unicameral, and that it needs 2 governance boards to approve them in sequence in order to make these large sweeping changes. These things, when you break it out and you say, oh, well, the TEL Treasury is the source of the issuance that flows throughout the platform, it becomes incredibly important that each of the 4 minor groups, who are themselves stationed across the different layers of the platform in this blockchain value chain for mobile financial services, it ensures that each of their interests, preferences are considered, and a proposal that ultimately could, for instance, reduce the number of TEL issuance to a specific subsystem like the TAN, like Telcoin Application Network or TELX, which we'll get into those counts in a minute. These decision-making rules and the structure ensures that they are voted off the island, and are meant to provide, a very clear-cut way for submitting and approving proposals that have an impact on everyone. And so there's the Global Council, there's Platform and Treasury, and then there's local councils. So Telcoin Application Network is responsible for governing TAN, the Telcoin Application Network, and that includes network-specific changes, TEL issuance, which we still need to get through a TAN IP1 proposal that commences staker and developer issuance. But that is a discussion for the recurring council meet with that group and for the forum. And then there's the TELX Council, and so they govern TELX markets, determine where to allocate issuance to what different market and why. And finally, there's this special purpose organization, the Compliance Council, that is responsible for legal compliance, conflict resolution, and has veto authority over all proposals if, in terms of analyzing them based off of laws and regulations, as well as community association values and rules. And so you have these various different council members responsible collectively for covering the full set of governance tasks across the platform. And this structure is meant to enable a number of different things. The first one is that you have, by having these sort of parallel resource governance regimes across the different networks, you have a redundancy that enables one experimentation across production zones, and then 2 reduces the risk that one decision going poorly would affect the entire whole of the system. So having the TAN Council experiment with application layer incentives, really exciting area. It won't necessarily affect TELX Council. It's important with these governance orgs and just generally this sort of complex system, that it has a complex governance system to address that. And so, yeah, these various councils govern various things across the platform, and they use different decision-making processes to do that. They have each, just generally, council members have 3 primary duties. 1 is communication information, 2 is proposal management, and 3 is domain oversight. So the first one, communication information, this is perhaps, one of the most important connected pieces within the decision-making processes for the councils, which is bi-weekly or every 2 weeks, each council, or in the case of platform and treasury, they have a combined council meet, needs to schedule a meeting where they go through, debate different proposals, provide progress reports on those proposals, provide information about their domain, and interact with the community to give them guidance. I think there's, and so within this sort of, flat organizational structure where we all are a part of this, the critical piece is that people join those council meets and to talk about proposals and interact to ultimately take them to a place of being complete, fully financed, and ready for implementation. The second one is proposal management. So each of the council members on each of the councils, they are required to review and evaluate the various proposals, especially when they are submitted to Snapshot, but ideally in advance. Once a proposal has been formally submitted to a Snapshot, which is where each of the councils vote, then they need to vote. That's a requirement of the system. And if they fail to vote within 3 consecutive times proposals, then the compliance council can then sanction that person and have them actually be replaced with a substitute by the TAO, and then ultimately a replacement candidate by the minor group that elected them as soon as they are able. And then, so they need to vote on all the Snapshot proposals, and especially if you vote against a proposal, you need to provide a reason for why, so people can improve it and ultimately gain consensus. And then they need to facilitate the documentation of proposal outcomes. And then lastly, domain oversight, which just means enforcing communication rules over the various channels which cover your territory. So if you're on the Telex Council, the Telex channel, discussions channel is an area that you oversee and need to either determine whether you're going to outsource some person that is going to administer that and enforce the communication rules, or whether or not the council is going to do them on their own. That's an autonomous decision from each council, independent of others. They're required to monitor the system that they're governing and its performance, help provide information to the community over time, and ultimately represent the interests of their the minor group that elected them. So each of these is thoroughly documented both on the website, where there's a full minor councils section, including each of the councils, as well as an overview on TGIP1. It's encoded, it's codified in the Telcoin Association Constitution, precisely what their duties are and everything. And then, additionally, thanks to Leo's hard work, a set of council instructions have been provided. And so each of these councils uses different decision-making processes in order to set rules that ultimately structure interactions within their domain, as well as to enforce rules within their domain. These proposals include, at the highest level, we have the TIP proposal, which is basically platform-wide social policies. It's a platform council proposal. Anyone can submit a TIP proposal to the forum for review and discussion. Only council members can submit those proposals to the Platform Council Snapshot. And so the scope of this is basically communication rule changes So if we were to say, let's switch from Discord to Slack, that would, as an association, that would be under TIP. If there's a platform-wide sort of system update that does not require financing, you would also use the TIP process. And then for various compliance and legal decisions, that's a TIP process. That's a TIP proposal. And so then you have the TEL-IP proposal, which covers Telcoin net after it is the main network is live with 10 validators producing blocks. That oversees Telcoin network, oversees the TEL treasury, which is the primary source of TEL issuance throughout the platform. It oversees governance infrastructure and can make changes to who ultimately is the election proposal author, as well as it has the ability to alter the values within the association constitution. So with this TEL-IP proposal, which is the most important one, it's the one that could effectively vote you off the island or whatever. First, the platform council needs to approve it on Snapshot with a 6 out of 8 approval, and then the Treasury Council needs to approve it, the 4 out of 4 approval. You have the TAN-IP process, which the TAN Council uses to make decisions about the Telcoin application network. There's 6 members on the TAN Council, and 5 out of 6 need to approve. There are from stakers and developers, because TAN is their local domain, they each elect 2 members to their to the council, and then liquidity miners and validators each elect 1. And the rationale for that is that if the rules are 5 out of 6 on this council, then that means that if there are two council members representing application developers and stakers, that at least one of them has to agree from both of those groups with the proposal. Otherwise, it can't move forward. Stakers shouldn't. If stakers disagree with a proposal outright that is being submitted to Telcoin Application Network, then they shouldn't be required, or that proposal probably doesn't work. I mean, that's their local area, and so it's a similar local council. The Telex Council is responsible for and uses the Telex IP process to make changes and upgrades to Telex. So that could include adding a new liquidity pool to Uniswap V4. That could include altering the TEL issuance on Telex, or even more, larger scope items like improving the Telex.network interface to enable liquidity provision, like Ty had recently submitted. And so each of these proposals they follow a similar development process. And I think that's a really important area for us to key in on. So they follow 3 key stages. The first one is just initial development and discussion. So that's you start talking about a particular proposal. Let's say a TEL-IP proposal on Discord or the forum, get people's input, see what they think, and draft an initial proposal for the forum for people to then go and review. And that's really an informal process. I mean, we want to experiment so that we can ultimately have the best outcomes across the platform. And so, this open process for providing potential proposals is key to that. It enables the community to have input without having to be a council member. It enables the councils to understand precisely what the preferences and interests are of the community, and then figure out whether or not it's feasible. So the first part is initial development and discussion. And then the next part is to do a council review and refinement, and ultimately, achieve consensus. So what that means is that, if there's a proposal, if there's a proposal where it's just like flat out, everyone agrees. It's a very small thing that you push through, or it's something that has already been done, or it continues an existing process. Perhaps that doesn't need to go to the recurring council meetings, but I think that in most cases, it's best practices to do that. That's the reason that we have these biweekly meetings, is so that proposal authors can come in with an idea that they think will improve the system, and then they can debate that, discuss that, present it in line with what they want, and then obtain input from the various council members, and then ultimately craft a proposal that is in line to enable with the consensus of the council members that they've spoken with. It's a lot easier to talk about things than it is to try and keyboard them out. And when we have these recurring council meets, it's similarly it's a lot easier to discuss and coordinate a meeting with, for instance, 6 people than it is with all 28 of us. And so the goal in the second phase is basically to obtain feedback from the different councils and then refine it based on input, or if there's some rationale across the various council members as to why the proposal should be thrown out, then one would decide not to move forward. But ultimately, the goal is to provide plan and finance, platform infrastructure, allocate TEL issuance for miners to harvest, and govern the social aspects of the association in line with our vision of creating this global blockchain standard around mobile networks. And so, yeah, there's the initial development and discussion, which is really informal. The second part is, all right, now we've got a proposal that's got some legs, it's got some, we've got enough info, and it's well worked enough to then bring it to the councils, especially in proposals where there's like a compliance gray area, or it requires financing from the TAO to perform new duties with the TAO or with some external consultant that folks want to work with through the TAO. Ultimately, most of these proposals, and all of them, when they are adding new tasks or new policies, they need to probably go through a recurring council meet. Otherwise, obtaining consensus and getting a very solid proposal is it's just a lot more difficult. And so people can refine their proposals based on input from everyone, and then with consensus, go to the third phase, which is formal submission to Snapshot and then voting. And so basically, once you have a proposal that you want to submit, say it's a Telex IP proposal, that adds a new market and incentives to it, that person, after they have consensus across and input across from the various council members, the community, and have checked off the feasibility boxes concerning compliance, finances, etc., should then go ahead and submit that proposal, codify it based off of the proposals that have happened before. So, there was a TEL IP proposal, and it's the first one. Once it's submitted to Snapshot, that should be codified as TEL IP 1. And so the council member submits a Snapshot, the voting period begins, which depends on the duration of the voting for the type of proposal that you're doing. And then either it's approved and implementation begins, or it's declined, and the council members who have voted against the proposal have provided feedback necessary for it to then be approved. If there's, and I said, if there's a proposal that's just not getting consensus, then perhaps it's something for later. But either way, that's the process. So initial development and discussion informally on Discord and the forum, council review and refinement and recurring council meetings, and then formal submission and ultimately voting and implementation. So before going in and submitting a proposal, especially on Snapshot, there are some really important guidelines to walk through. So the first one is that all people that are mentioned in the proposal have been consulted and have agreed to participate and undertake the endeavor that is being planned and financed. The financial implications of the proposal need to be clearly outlined. Any compliance considerations should be addressed, especially in new territories and gray, uncharted waters. The implementation path is clear, and then once again, there's explicit consent obtained from any individuals included in the proposal itself. And so that's the little considerations that people should have in mind. And then as far as the template, which is a question that was asked by Squirtel as well, each proposal should include an abstract, which is itself kind of an abstract term, but I think overview, summary, abstract, and that's 2 to 3 sentences on what's being proposed, why it matters, and so the motivation behind it and the expected outcome of the proposal should it be implemented. And then it should also include a specification, which is basically a detailed description of the changes, the technical requirements or financial requirements involved, the resource needs in terms of personnel and finance, and the timeline. And all of these things, in order to go to a snapshot, should probably be worked out with the people that, first and foremost must be worked out with the people that are involved in them. But second off, probably spoken with over a conversation like this in the recurring council meets. And so after spec, you have rationale, which is here's the problem that's being solved, the benefits of the problem, the potential risks and mitigation, the alternatives that you might consider, the feasibility thing. I think there's a number of different, sort of legal, technical, economic, financial feasibility questions that should be asked. And we've actually provided a list of these evaluative criteria for people to use when they're crafting proposals in the council instruction manual. Once again, thanks to Leah. And then lastly, there's the implementation plan, which is step-by-step execution, the responsible parties, including their agreement, the outcome indicators that we're going to use to judge success metrics, and then how we're going to monitor the proposal itself and ensure that it achieves what it aims to. And so, yeah, once again, you have these various different processes: TIP, TEL-IP, TAN-IP, TEL-X-IP, and the Compliance Council improvement proposal that each that are each used to govern different areas of the platform. And when making these proposals, I think the evaluation criteria can be and should be thoroughly discussed. So is this mission alignment? Is this in line with the Telcoin Association's mission, vision, and values? The constitutional principles that were laid out in the Constitution. Are there any sort of misalignments with that in the proposal and a sort of community benefit assessment? Then there's a feasibility analysis. So technical, economic, financial, legal, and political feasibility. How do any of these factors come into play? There are definitely certain types of proposals where these are critical to consider. And then, of course, the performance indicators that I mentioned earlier. And so, yeah, that's a little bit of an overview of, here's the various different decision-making processes. Here's how they work, your obligations within them. And I highly encourage people to go through the site and review these, especially as they pertain to your individual council, so that you have a really strong understanding of them. It's written out in numerous places, but of course we're here to answer questions. So next question here, just general council communication, information rules and processes. So each of these councils, well, the platform council can use the TIP process to, let's say, alter where we do the primary, you do the recurring council meets in terms of the communication system like Discord or Slack or whatever. The individual councils themselves are responsible for creating recurring council meetings as a group every 2 weeks so that they can discuss the different proposals, share information with the community, obtain community feedback, and overall just move things forward. And so with this new structure, it's, the expectation that it effectively, this group of people has a set of communication and information rules that we need to adhere to so that we can continue, and properly operate the system. It's much different than, for instance, a company corporate structure where you have a top-down decision maker who can come in and at much less decision-making costs because it's just, a unilateral decision can be made. Those decisions go faster than what you would expect in a collective governance structure like this. And so these council meetings are, and you have more parties and preferences and interests involved, and you're analyzing and governing this globally accessible system that generates this scarce tel unit and a variety of different products. And so achieving consensus is critical. And so as well as just overall understanding that here are the council recurring meets are the duty of each council member to join. Either you provide a rationale for why you can't do it at a specific time that was shared, or you join. And that's so that we can move things forward, get everyone on board, and move these proposals more quickly throughout each. And so each council, the exception of the Platform and Treasury Council, should be creating their own recurring council meets within their channel to discuss these proposals, and then these proposals and with the community should be the primary focus of each of those meetings. And so we're all the group that's responsible for communication as a result of TGIP1 and the elections, and now all of us being in these roles, rather than relying on one person or company to provide info. We each have different areas of the platform where we provide info, communicate about in structured settings based off the rules of the association. And so instead of top-down structure, it's more of a flat structure for decision making, which, while that does introduce extra decision making costs in terms of time, ultimately it's meant to reduce the external costs imposed by any one minor group. So the cost of making a decision that would negatively impact someone, it's meant to reduce those down while because the councils have less members than, let's say, a DAO that has a token where everybody votes. It's meant to sort of reduce the decision-making costs as much as possible, while also ensuring that decisions that are made don't go against the interests of any of the minor groups. Each minor council is responsible for making, developing, implementing, and enforcing its own communication information rules, which include community meetings and updates, which are thoroughly described in the site, and then also include the control, monitoring, enforcement of those rules. And so overall, it's important to note that, first and foremost, it's important that all the council members read, understand, and then apply these rules within their channels so that, for instance, there can be a recurring TAN council meeting where they talk about the TAN proposals, and Telex has a town square where we can go talk about the existing proposals out there, etc. So trying to break down each of these groups and councils and their domains into manageable units to ultimately govern this complex multi-layered system that we think is superior to existing blockchain networks that are sort of disorganized in a sense. What I mean by that is that every blockchain network de facto has 3 layers. They have a base layer blockchain, they have a goods and services layer, whether or not that's just Bitcoin as the decentralized currency on the network, or with in the case of Telcoin, Telex, an on-chain decentralized exchange marketplace. This goods and services layer is present across all networks. It's just excluded from its ownership, and from the miners on those layers are just excluded from the ownership model and decision-making processes for harvesting Tel and for governing the platform. And so, and then at the top layer, you have this customer touch point, the Telcoin application layer, where there's developers building things on top of this blockchain network, leveraging the below layers, and also stakers, which are user owners of the system that, just like a Venmo or someone that says, hey, you should use Ethereum, these people are users. But in order to establish, for instance, one of the goals of the Telcoin platform and association is to establish a global payments network that connects everyone in the world through a shared infrastructure for settling payments. And so having users own the system, as well as incorporating the entire value chain for blockchain into the ownership model, to us is just skating where the puck is going, to quote the great one. It's a way for us to organize what is already which is a disorganized and sort of exclusionary model, where only the base layer blockchain validators are the ones who get to earn issuance. And so, if you could own, if you have the opportunity as a developer to build on something where you can harvest the native token and earn fees, as well as vote to represent your interests in governance, then why would you choose one where you can't? And so that's kind of the defensibility idea behind creating the structure. And it's really important that each council, minor council, independently sets their own meetings and then monitors and enforces communication rules within their domain. And so, yeah, generally it falls on us to schedule these meetings, to participate actively, and to monitor and enforce these channels. So we're all peers, and hopefully the documentation that we provided with these council instruction manuals can provide some further insight into the inner workings of how you participate in very specific ways. And I think one thing I would point out, that this role requires that you show up and schedule a meeting or current council meeting. It requires that you vote on proposals that are submitted, but it's not meant to be a full-time job. I think it's certainly an exciting area to work on and explore, but ultimately we're governance officials that are deciding on various things, which can be super complex and require lots of input, and also pretty simple, straight to the point. And so, yeah, I think if everyone here can sort of become an expert on these rules and processes, and then actually undertake setting up recurring council meetings, and I think we'll be in a great spot from there. So there were a few other questions, but I wanted to stop there for a moment and get see if anyone has any questions that I can help answer.
You hear me?
Yeah, they're pretty loud. What's up, man?
Hey, what's going on? All right. So it's certainly been a little confusing, and it's been kind of a slow rollout for the council members. Partly because we're just kind of like, we don't know where to start. We don't know what to do with our hands. And there's been some pushback and some pressure from social media people, people in power holders and everything like that. Like, like, let's get something going. Do you have any advice or any recommendations? I'm sure you've got a million ideas of what you'd want to see, get rolled out, of like where we can start, because I think the biggest thing is like going through this process once or twice just to
Mhm.
kind of feel everything out and go through the motions and get used to it. Um, so is there anything out there that like you recommend us to push out that would like generate some excitement with the community that we can just get on right away, push it out there and say, hey, because I think a good first impression is going to be helpful for everybody in the council. Um, so is there any recommendations that we could do for that?
I
You
think,
know what I'm saying?
well, yeah, no,
I'm
I mean,
assuming
so the
nobody else.
first thing, yeah, what were you gonna say, sir?
Well, I was just saying, I'm assuming that this is pretty confidential. Nobody else
Yeah.
can. I don't. I'm not really. I don't go on Discord that often. I don't. Can any? Is this like pretty private to just council members, right? Like in this recording?
I mean, I think we're just gonna share the recording externally for sure, just for transparency purposes. But I
Okay.
do believe that this chat itself is currently just council members, so that we can really hone in on what you're talking about, which is getting off to the right foot, get started. I think the first thing I want to say is that, yeah, I mean, when I think transitioning from a sort of corporate style, hybrid style structure to a full-on global digital decentralized governance system over a blockchain system, like it's expected. Mrs. Leo said it properly, which is this kind of like teething in a sense. Like, we're just getting started and we're getting moving. I wouldn't. The first thing I'd say is that our goal is to create good rules and policies and improvements to the platform. And so, if you have ideas as to that, then I would propose those and develop them and discuss them with the community, and then bring them to the schedule recurring council meet with your council peers, which that will be open to the community, because we need the community to come in and tell us why our ideas are bad or how they think it could be better, because ultimately we're just representing them.
Right. But
So
as of now, it's like most of the community as of now is just like, I want exchanges. I want whatever is going to pump
yeah,
my bag.
sure,
Not
yeah, I
necessarily
mean,
looking primarily towards what's best for the network.
so what I would say at a high level, just looking at what the biggest impact things are. The first one is TAN IP1, which is at commencing staker TEL issuance. What that means is, and if anyone hasn't read the rules, I highly recommend going and reviewing what it means to have application layer issuance. But it's effectively stakers earn TEL based off of their volume each week, their exchange fees they paid, and the total volume of the people they've referred to a Telcoin app each week versus all the other stakers. And so that's one area and that's codified in TGIP1. We wanted to enable, because Telcoin is the only application developer as of right now, we wanted to have the community, submit and propose that proposal and have it affirmed, in this new structure, so that there isn't a sort of unfairness in the air as to it. And we have ideas as to how we can make it more fair, such as, reducing the total allocation to developers. Basically, you would, in theory, like say, all right, we'd cut the total allocation of TEL issuance for developers when there's only one, down to a third, and then each new developer, then it's 2/3 of the total issuance, and then the third developer, you could have the full issuance, while the rest of that flowing to the TAN safe or elsewhere. And so those are like, I think, from the perspective of, if you're a Telcoiner that doesn't want to be a liquidity miner and uses the app and refers people, this is and wants to use that as infrastructure. I mean, that is cornerstone a cornerstone incentive for participation. It, I think, drastically increases the likelihood of self-organization and really brings in the TEL stakers into this issuance model that TEL liquidity miners have already enjoyed, and in a way that is super unique and very exciting and in line with everything we're trying to achieve. So, I mean, that to me is a really exciting proposal. I think another one, yeah, the exchange listing proposal, like, we're like, overall, it's in ethos is great, and we can certainly, the call tomorrow, we're going to go into more detail about it, right? Because like when you cross over into, all right, we have this compliance gray area that is these centralized exchanges, which, for those who don't know, centralized exchanges do three things, which in securities laws are by law required to be separate, which is they custody, execute and settle, and offer you access. And so they are a very unique type of model that is, in a lot of ways, I mean, in every way, unique, distinct to crypto. And if anyone's been following the news, I don't know of one exchange that hasn't gotten a Wells notice that has volume. So it's not, and then the other area is that we want to make sure that that task is financed properly. So all these things can be done well. They just need to have a meeting to talk about it. That having, for instance, like there's a forum proposal the proposal was literally just a carbon copy of, or close to a carbon copy of the initial one that just said urgently complete. And it's like, well, we got to talk about it first. You're talking about us crossing into a pretty uncharted territory and going down a road that could cost a lot of money, and also, something that we need to finance properly, with everyone included in the discussion. And so, there's like this hardcore urgency to get things done, but that doesn't mean that the proposal is like approved and passed just because someone, submitted it to the forum, right? It needs to go through the proper processes to get to a point where everyone agrees with it and it's properly set up to move. And then, which we have that meeting tomorrow. I mean, we'll be able to talk about it then. And like, I can tell you, I've applied to Kraken twice, once in the past year. And then, there was basically, if you notice, like a commercial effort by the TAO while we were working towards getting to the association election and all the legal different things that get to there. The TAO did, work in the association's interest to get listings going. So like these are things that I want, is like maybe not as bad as some people do, because I really want to bring this all on chain, and that's kind of what we're doing. But like I mean, like I have applied to Coinbase and they have a TEL coin like 3 times or something, and they tell you not to tell anyone, right? So it's like it's just a lot better to talk about these things over a call. And so to me, like, getting the recurring council meets going with the community involved, like as far as like, for instance, the Telex, I think there's a Telex IP out there. We're the reason for this sort of polycentric governance system, which I use that word, and I know that it probably makes some eyes roll over, but I don't know a better one to describe it, because that's sort of doctrinal term for it. Within this, like, my focus isn't on Telex, right? I'm focused on platform, Treasury Council stuff.
Right.
And so, that's up to the Telex Council. They have the autonomy to go out and propose and add new markets, remove markets. I think that's why we've made these sort of sub governance modules, is to enable these things to go from A to Z without involving the whole world in them, but also ensuring that, because it's a small group, we can walk through the various things and that would be in contention, iron them out and move things forward. So summary is, one, recurring council meets, they can both be used to discuss proposals that are already in the forum and to help people develop those proposals further so that they can then perhaps make a forum proposal. And then I think TAN IP1 is a really sort of critical thing for us to get going, and there's the technological infrastructure for it is already in place, and it's sort of just waiting to be submitted, refined, and then implemented, and that should drive a lot of, theoretically, a lot of excitement from teleholders and wallet users in a way that they haven't experienced yet. And so, I think those are big. And then, the Tel IP one, we'll talk about that tomorrow on the meet. And what other things do you guys think we can do to kick everything off?
What's going on tomorrow?
So there's a recurring council meet with the Platform and Treasury Council.
Okay, so that's not all right. I'm not in that.
Yep.
I just was like, what? Wait, am I missing something? What's going on tomorrow?
Yeah, and as far as like community preferences for getting things done, there are very, in my view, pretty clear structures for that. But of course, I want to make them clear. I want to make this stuff, just operational excellence with all of us. Despite being in a community governance model, there's no reason it can't all work really well. And I think, people can voice their proposals on the forum. They can bring them to the recurring council meets. We can talk about them, and that's just the process. Those are just the processes for doing it, and that's what they've been structured with all this in mind. And sort of, I think, while there may be external pressure to get one thing done, we don't know that isn't just one small faction of the community versus a much larger faction that hasn't spoken until we actually sit down and talk about the proposals.
Right.
I'm not going to get too tangential. I'm just really trying to highlight the importance of the communication and information rules as it relates to submitting and ultimately implementing proposals, because it's there's keyboard warriors no way to go about governance, and so that's what I'm trying. I think that's why it makes these things kind of great. And I'm not saying anyone is through a war. I'm just saying that's just kind of what it feels like when you're sort of going back and forth over a proposal. It's really great to write it out, but if there's enough interest in it, then let's talk about it.
No, I totally agree. Like, I wouldn't even I wouldn't even put together a proposal before I even got some kind of consensus with fellow members that this is something everybody wants to do. But yeah, no, I think the biggest thing is going through the process once or twice so that we're all comfortable with it is going to be the biggest hurdle as of right now, because we're all just kind of like, I'm speaking for myself, but I feel like I'm speaking for some other people too, that we're just kind of like, what's going on? Like, where do we go from here? So I think going through the process is definitely going to be extremely helpful. So I'm just like, all right, what can we push through, now, so we can just get through this process, something that will excite people, and then push it through, and then everybody has this learning experience, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, I like that. I think
I think
IP1 is easy. I think Telex IP1, that we have, there's such a depth and breadth of knowledge about how liquidity pools work. Everybody's been doing them or a lot of folks have been doing them for like 4 years now. We're some of the earliest adopters in the world on this stuff. So, for instance, like I haven't had a chance to review the Telex IP1. Been in Nebraska running around like crazy recently, which was just a blast, a smashing success. It was probably the best conference I've ever been to for crypto. But we should, I think like one proposal I thought was, like, would drive a lot, that would sort of align with the Tel IP that was put out would be to, and you know, as I said, like I've applied to Coinbase multiple times, and they just told me that they'll let me know if they let me know. Like that's just how it works, and also to like not necessarily talk about that, but it's like, well, we're a community governance structure, so we're going to talk about that. We have to talk about that, and I, you know, talk to have compliance for the TAO, Tim, who you can email anytime if you have compliance related questions for proposals. Like I really encourage that at compliance@telcoin.org. About, you know, the transparency of our exchange interactions, and you know, we agree that that should be a very open discussion with everyone for sure. Whether or not it's something that we go out and list out on the forum about, we talk to them there this time about this, and this is their response. I don't know if that's like the best move, but I think talking about it and getting it to finalization is great. But yeah, I think incentivizing a market on base. Sorry for my long-winded answer. I think that's like a pretty cool opportunity, because once you have a Uniswap market on base, then that means that all the Coinbase users now have direct access, and Coinbase itself has this sort of incentive to be like, oh, let's tier 2 and create, you know, even more network effects around this exchange within our ecosystem. And I think things like that are pretty simple proposals most people would probably agree with, that have you know, go-to-market strategy implications that are interesting from the perspective of getting, you know, achieving the Tel IP goal via a Telex IP, you know, which is getting listed. Grant, I think you were going to jump in earlier, so I'd love to hear your thoughts.
I just kind of want to add on that, like you know, that if there is pressure from the community, I mean, there's like, you know, there's love and hate all the time, social media, whatever. You know, I think part of this too is like, you know, that we're as these councils are formed, like, you know, we're excited. I think that, you know, everyone learns by doing, you know, besides just reading, like that's, you know, actually implementing some of these proposals is going to be a huge learning curve for everybody involved. But it's also, you know, I think it's, you know, it's more important that we do things the right way and set good examples instead of like rushing through it. Not that anyone was suggesting that we rush through this sort of thing, but you know, like ultimately, like the councils, like there's always room for improvement, and I just think that you know, that sometimes being patient is also the best path forward, like at certain times where it's like, you know, we don't need to always like the council shouldn't, I think you know, not doing anything at all is sort of this, it seems like that's a bad approach, but then, you know, ratifying and constantly pumping through, you know, proposals every day, like that's also like too much. So there's like sort of that happy medium of finding a balance between what makes sense, what needs to be addressed, where are our priorities, as we move forward. So I was just going to add to that earlier, but yeah.
No, I totally agree, and I just want to. I'm just prefacing by saying, like, because nothing has happened yet. I feel almost a little guilty, because I'm just like, all right, am I not doing my job right now because we haven't done anything yet? Like, are we sitting on this? And I feel like other people are feeling that way too. Like, all right, are we too you know, slow at this right now? Like, what? I don't know. We're all eager. We're all definitely eager to get, you know, some things pushing through and stuff like that. But we're just kind of like, also, we're not really sure what to do. So it's just it's definitely a learning curve, and I feel like a lot of us are going through it.
Yeah, and I think you know, to expect any otherwise from, you know, at least from my vantage point, in terms of there being a learning curve and, you know, growing pains, or however you want to frame it, within this new governance structure that we're all equally involved in as equals, you know, as peers. You know, I think it is to be expected to feel like it's going slow, and that there are things that need to be overcome to get there. And you know, I'm glad that we can set up calls like this to go through that and address any of those concerns, and make it more operational efficient. But at the same time, you know, your obligations are effectively to vote on any proposals that are submitted, and in a timely manner, and to schedule and join recurring council meets. And as far as developing new ideas for improvements platform, I don't think anyone should put pressure on themselves if they don't have a great idea. That's why the forum is open. Anyone can submit a proposal there about anything. If there was some, really, let's say that there was a proposal that was very clear cut and dry and went through with the recurring council meets and discussed and had input, and then one was to simply not join the meet to discuss it and then abstain from voting, that person would be shirking their duties. But someone who is, in their position, fulfilling their obligations, should not feel discouraged or in any form of like not doing the job. It's such early days for this, and so hopefully we can use this as a jumping point to get those council meets going that then drums up more ideas that people propose. And ultimately, I hope that people feel the experimental nature of this, of the process, in terms of, if you have an idea, it doesn't, don't expect it to be one thing. Just like we can expect anyone to centrally plan a communal global governance system and everyone be like totally engaged and know exactly what they're supposed to do on day one. It's going to a new frontier, and each of these proposals kind of like a new frontier. And so even if it's not a really well done or completed proposal, like just getting ideas out there about what you think might be accomplished is in and of itself important. And I think that people shouldn't feel like concerned about their proposal not being, ready to be approved in day one, because ultimately, if it is a meaningful, impactful proposal, then it's going to need to be discussed, and all those things have a starting point. And so what I would encourage is people to feel like they, act on this feeling of experimenting with new rules and ideas and ways that can impact the platform in a way they think it's good for everyone, and not to feel like they're constrained by, people thinking their proposal's not good or whatever. It's like, yeah, that's why I submitted it here, so we can work through it together as a community. What would be bad is if there was we had all this community governance structure and then, we didn't follow those processes and, instead had some one person go out and be responsible for everything and, be the decision maker. It's like, no, it's not how it's structured. And so, these things like these council proposals, just, I think if you look at it from the perspective of, all right, there's the day-to-day decisions of, let's say, being a liquidity miner, right, or being a staker. Those decisions are going to be made really rapid, much more rapid, much quickly. They're sort of day-to-day things. And then at the higher level of governance, things like council member improvement proposals or elections, those decisions are going to take longer because they involve more people, and they, in terms of the decision making and in terms of the costs that could be imposed on them. And then, so there's the operational, there's the sort of council rules, as we'll call them, or collective choice, what have you. And then there's the constitutional level, which these rules should, be altered much less frequently than the council proposals. Improvements should be done, and of course, much less frequently than your day-to-day liquidity mining or staking or validating or developing tasks do. They are something that is going to change the entire governance structure, right? Or get rid of a council, or get rid of a type of minor group, or dissolve the association. Like, those things should take much longer,
Right.
But these council and then these council decisions, they also should take longer, and that's natural in this structure. If it was a company where there was a big boss in the room that needed to their role was to literally be the one-man decision maker, then it would be different, and perhaps we could elect the CEO to do that, but that's not the dynamic of this, and it's because it's this open system that's used by theoretically everyone in the world, and produces this scarce benefit, this tell that subtracts from the supply when it's used. It's important to have a community-led governance and ownership model rather than some company, because a company is infinitely less capable of scaling than a community-owned model, but also because the infrastructure and the rules that the governance regime are making impacts so many more people. They should all be included in the decisions. I think that's like the essence of blockchains, in ways that everyone, community-owned internet services without middlemen, and that is the governance structure that's right for that. Might take a little bit of time to get everybody's input across the value chain, and but that's not a bad thing. That's just the realities of our governance and technological model.
Yeah, and I think once we meet in our smaller sub councils, and like our actual council groups get to know each other, just talking about the platform in general, like it's going to be kind of obvious. Like I feel like once that conversation starts, to kind of get a feel for like, okay, we all kind of recognize this particular area that needs improvement, and start exploring like the proposal ideas out there. But yeah, I think it's natural to kind of be like, what do I do now? But like I bet the feeling it'll come naturally once we start meeting as just councils.
Yeah, I think that's the key is, I mean, it is based on the rules, our duty to set up these meetings, and it also is just incredibly beneficial from the perspective of workshopping, getting alignment, and getting momentum. One foot in front of the other is usually the best approach. So yeah, council meetings, everyone should try and schedule those, within a reasonable time frame to move things forward. What other questions did you guys want to go through? The things that we can help provide guidance on. I'll give you the floor.
Just real quick, is this being recorded? And if it is, how can we access it?
This is being recorded using Craig. It's the Discord official Discord recording thingy. We're gonna post it on our YouTube. Once it's done, the recording, I can share a raw URL, but we'll process it and put it online
Okay, awesome.
through YouTube.
All right,
Yeah, let's
thanks.
get let's just do the YouTube route, the raw one. It's it's a lot more open for everyone to do, and might as well not do it twice the work. Okay, so yeah, what other questions do we have? Squirtel, did you have anything that you wanted to get clarity on?
So a lot of it was mainly just collating, just chatting to a lot of the other council members. Let me just open. Sorry, I'm on my phone. So one of the aspects that I was intrigued about was essentially where we're working in the different sectors. We're going to have members of eventually the telecoms there come on board. We're going to have a variety of different members all come in. Will there be any sort of NDAs there from that side, given the sensitive nature from the ongoing projects and how it evolves? If there's any different partners, 'cause obviously that would probably be an area that would be covered, and eventually we'd have a variety of newer members that aren't disclosed at all. We'd have them come on board. So what would the process be from that side? Would we have an NDA, or is there something?
Yeah, so basically, yeah, so I was just talking to Tim about this earlier, and basically, so the first thing, NDA wise, that falls under the TIP process. It's platform wide social policy for council members. And so, should we want to do NDAs for any specific things, we should go ahead and create a Telcoin improvement proposal that meets that standard, and it's pretty cut and dry doc to put together and everything. As far as like, do we need an NDA for specific things? That's sort of the crux of the question, right? A telecom that's going to produce blocks on Telcoin network is going to do so in a way that is a publicly available submission to the forum, followed by approval by the compliance council into their station, which then will direct them with an NFT that enables them to participate as a validator. And so it's pretty open from that perspective. And I think, yeah, that's something that I want to point out, is that, like, it's all kind of designed to be transparent in that way. And the network, which tomorrow Grant and Marcus and Steve are actually going to do a presentation on in the Platform and Treasury Council meet on the status of the network and everything. But it's a really exciting area, and really, I mean, the most foundational piece of infrastructure for the Telcoin platform that we collectively govern here is getting the mainnet live, right? And so I think that I don't think that we need NDAs. I think it's a great question. And then as far as, let's say, Telcoin Holdings and its relationships with, like, a community bank or something in Nebraska, like, it's kind of akin to saying, like, because AT&T is a member of the GSMA, they should share their inner workings in a sense. So I just want to, like, separate that those are two separate things.
Yeah.
But I think we're all on the same page there. So yeah, I think the NDA is a great question. When I think about what we would use it for, that's where I think it's just something that needs to be further discussed. But ideally, everything is just open, transparent with the community, with the exception of things like, when you all did your KYM things, right? When we all did that, like, obviously that's private info and not to be shared with anyone ever for any reason, unless the individual shares it themselves in some other circumstance. But as far as, like, proposals, new actors go, I don't believe that we currently need one, but it's something that Tim can shine some light on tomorrow in the call.
Perfect. And then that literally just led me on to, do we have any sort of legal jargon or any sort of phrase we have to say if we are as we're part of the council? Is there any essentially legal phrasing and jargon for, like, do's and don'ts, just to cover ourselves essentially as well? Or is everything quite open, transparent from that aspect? Because it is a separated entity.
Yeah, I raised this question with Tim as well, and there are, of course, guidelines as to things like not, like, requiring or adding someone to a proposal without the consent, or breaching the association values and general code of conduct that was disseminated to all the council members. This is also one of those where it should be a TIP, and we should stipulate specifically what those are. I think that maybe I think that it's like we're in a position as council members of responsibility and authority, and so, but at the same time, we're a self-regulating group, and I think that I can't tell you that there are a few things forbidden. So I already mentioned the other one, which is, implementing or trying to like propose someone to do something without them being involved. Another one is trying to like dox people's wallet addresses without their consent. Just an overall like privacy thing. Yes, but as far as legal and communication guidelines, I think that's TIP. I think if an individual is posting something on their own capacity on the internet, as long as they're not representing that they are, for instance, the platform council, if I were to go and make a post on behalf of the platform council without platform council knowing it, that's a definite no. Or saying, this, falsities is probably, that's bad practice about things. But ultimately, the community and who has elected us is in addition to the rules that we have set up around privacy and the like, is going to regulate us and tell us if they don't like what we're doing, and then vote us out, right? And that's the purpose of the liquid delegation thing, is to be able to have stakers or liquidity miners or whoever, if they don't feel like they're being represented by someone, to have them within the election time frame replace that person. So in every way, we want to be self-regulating. But yeah, I do think it's a great question that we should, maybe even iron out further.
Yeah, this isn't legal advice, but I personally would be weary of, representing yourself as like, some sort of like anything that could be misconstrued as like manipulating markets or, the sort of thing you do. I would just advise caution in general, just for that as you represent things online. So, but yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. So essentially just general common sense.
Yes, I would say so, but
Yeah.
you never know.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, guys.
Are there any other questions? Okay.
All right.
Well, I for one feel glad that we have scheduled this, and as far as next steps here, if there's proposals within your domain that you haven't reviewed yet, take a look and provide any feedback if you have that. Otherwise, I would encourage everyone to work within their council chat, which is just the only people that are allowed to, write in those chats are minor councils that are, members of that said council. And, just the way that we did it in the platform one, it's like what day works best for everyone. And then, put a poll out there and people chose it. And then like what time works for everyone. And ultimately that led to being able to schedule things in a sort of sequential fashion that was pretty cut and dry. So that's how I would recommend coordinating things. And yeah, I look forward to, I'll definitely be joining the other council meets just as a community member, observing and interested in maybe having some input in some areas, but I'll be excited for the call tomorrow where we can go through the various proposals. Really looking forward to a Telcoin Network update. I'm sure everybody here is ready for that. And I just appreciate everyone's time and becoming part of this association in its infancy at the Frontier. Totally recognize and sympathize with feeling a little bit lost or like you're not doing enough. And it's good to have these calls. And usually with a couple weeks notice, I can lock in a time, and I think that's pretty par for the course for everyone. But reach out if you have any further questions that arise from this or want any more guidance. And otherwise, I'll open the floor for any closing remarks or questions, or we can just sync up at our next meets. So what's on everyone's mind? You get to go.
I missed like the first 10 minutes. Grant, do you know when this will be available on YouTube?
It'll be pretty quick. I'd imagine by tomorrow. So that, I mean, it's yeah, I'd do it tomorrow.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Well, Squirtle, thanks for getting all those questions, man. Fantastic job. Leo, hats off to taking the initiative on getting these council instructions. Please let us know if you feel like the council instructions could be done better or more thoroughly or less thoroughly or whatever feedback you have. We're all going towards the same vision here. We're all in a lot of ways on the same team, and so I'm for one really excited to get things moving, and yeah, just it's really cool to see everyone's active participation, and as we continue to develop proposals and bring them live, that'll be a bunch of wins to celebrate, and we've got plenty of time ahead of us. We want to build a system that lasts longer than all of us out there and sustains for future generations of miners, and I think we're in a really good spot right now to get that going and get off the ground. So yeah, great idea on getting this going, and just keep us posted if you have any sort of high level things that you want to discuss or learn more about. We'll clarify. Otherwise, we'll see you all at the council meet tomorrow, Platform and Treasury Council members.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you guys for going through it all. I appreciate it. I understand everyone's like all the different time zones. So yeah, thank you for everyone getting together and being able to do this.
Yeah, thanks, y'all.
Thanks, everyone. Talk to you soon.
Cheers, mate.